Welcome everyone to Chats with Charnie. Thank you so much for coming back. Today we're continuing with our series, CASA, How Did You Do It? Today's guest is someone actually quite special. It's one of my former lecturers, Elton Pullen CA, and newly qualified PhD holder. Elton, welcome to Chats with Charnie. It's so great having you here. Please tell the viewers a bit more about yourself. What's your current job title and how long have you been qualified for?
Awesome. Thank you, Chanel or Charnie. Good to meet with you. It's been a while. So my current job title is I'm a senior lecturer at Millpark Education for now 4 months. But before that, I was 10 years at UWC, and that's where you and I met. As a lecturer, I'm also a former student of UWC, and I've been qualified since, let me just guess, it's the end of 2010. I finished articles, so that would make it 11 going on 12 years now. That's how long I've been qualified. So I guess it shows with the no hair that I'm not that young anymore.
No, Elton, I remember like fond memories of you. I think we met in my second year, which, if I'm not mistaken, is 2012. That's when you started at UWC.
Yeah, correct.
And you definitely put a spin on management accounting for us and financial management. And we were all really grateful for the wisdom that you bestowed on us and helped us pass that year. Elton, all of us find this need to become a chartered accountant at some point in our lives. When did you know that you wanted to be a CASA?
That's a good question. I think I was very blessed in the sense that I knew very early on. So I went to the Settlers High School, got to get it right. So in grade 9, grade 8 and 9, we did accounting. And I was quite good at it. And then we had a project in grade 9, I think, when we had to explore, the type of career we wanted to do. And I sort of started looking at, which subject was I good in, and then this whole thing of a CA came up, and I found out they earn a lot of money as well. So I thought, great, okay, I'm good at it. It seems like I'm good at it, and they earn a lot of money. And funny enough, my father actually had a couple of church friends that, their kids were much older than me, and they were CAs. So I had a few people that I could also engage with at the time. And so pretty much from the age of 14, I sort of knew that, I wanted to pursue, the CASA qualification. And I was quite resolute in the sense that I chose my subject so that I can become a CA. Like at school, grade 8, grade 10, 11, and 12, chose geography and those, you have to fill up your subjects. But you didn't concentrate on those because you don't need that to be a CA. It was like maths and accounting, which some of the teachers didn't like, because I'm like, I don't need this to be a CA. Why are you anyway? So I knew very early on, but as much as I didn't know early on, the road was not easy, and it's not easy for many. So I took the extended route. So I finished matric. I did fortunately quite well, and I got into Stellenbosch University with a bursary. It was great. And I wasn't as disciplined as I thought I was, because I'm free for the first time in my life. And so I was a bit of a party animal, maybe a lot of party animal, I don't know. So I think my second year I flunked out at Stellenbosch, and then I joined UWC, repeated my second year at UWC. And then things went well. And then my PGDA years, most people, the PGDA year is probably your toughest year, also didn't go so well for me. So I repeated again. But a lot of lessons learned, even through the failing at Stellenbosch and the failing at the PGDA at UWC for the first time. And I think through those lessons that a lot of what I've learned there has carried me through where I am now.
So you're saying that you were saying that, there was different challenges that you met along the way. You are a party animal.
I was. A lot of people won't believe that, but I was.
Well, knowing you, as a lecturer, and looking back, you just be like, no, not him. But we all have these things we go through, and we all want to have fun and enjoy ourselves. And then there's also challenges that come along the way. Like honors is not easy. It is not the easiest thing ever. So with all that in mind, how long did it take you from your first day at Stellenbosch to your last day at UWC? In total, how long did it take you? Or not even that, your last day of articles. How long was your journey in becoming a CASA?
So I think, I mean, the shortest route, I think, is 7 years. So it took me 9 years, so 2 years extra. So because I failed my second year at Stellenbosch and my PGDA year at UWC the first time. So yeah, so it was 9 years in total. But you know, I always say, obviously at the time, the Stellenbosch wasn't so bad because like I knew I was gonna fail. Like, you know, you just know, like I was a party animal. I didn't dedicate myself to the work. So like I kind of just knew that I was gonna fail. But when I failed PGDA, that was a big blow. Because I did feel at the time I put in everything. And yeah, then I still failed the first time around. But I remember someone telling me, I don't know if you know Fred Lucas, who was, I think at the time, he was an HR manager at PwC. And he's quite a strong Christian as well. And he spoke to me and he says, you know what, Elton, when I failed, because I had to call him and say, listen, I failed. I don't think I'm going to come because I was signed at PwC. So I'm like, I'm not going to be able to come and do articles next year because I think I want to try and do it full time. And he's like, you know what, good choice. We will wait for you. And I was like, thanks. But he's like, just remember, like nobody's ever going to ask you how long did it, or let's put it this way. Once you're a CA, no one's going to say you should have been a CA 2 years ago, or you should have been a 3 years ago. And I mean, a CASA is a CASA. And I'm proud to say that it took me 2 years longer because I think that I can encourage so much more people because it took me so much longer. So, but no one ever asked me, Elton, but like, I remember you were first year with me back then, you should have qualified. No, like no one ever asked you those questions. So that stood out for me as well. And I think looking back, the other positive is, I mean, we have so much of our life circumstances around our studies. Like, you know, there's a saying that says it takes a village to raise a child, right? But I think it takes a community to study. And your life is built around it's your parents, it's friends. For me, it was church and home cell and all of that. It takes a big community. And if I look back, if I did not fail, maybe God would have worked it out somewhere else. If I didn't fail, especially that PGDA year, I don't think I would have met my wife, because what happened was that year that I failed, if I passed, I would have gone to Stellenbosch because I did articles, PwC Stellenbosch. My life would have been in Stellenbosch, basically. But because I failed, I stayed back home and I went to home cell and was, you know, all in sort of Belleville, that area. And that's when my wife and I started becoming friends and things like that. So that would not have happened. And so I think we can sometimes say, well, I felt this thing, which is a portion of our lives. It's a big part, but it's a portion. But God is working somewhere else in the other portion of your lives that is so much more significant. And it helps when you, in the moment, it feels like, no, like this is just devastating. But I think when you look back, you realize that God's grace has been through every struggle, victory, and yeah. So for me, like I celebrate the fact that I failed that year because I ended up meeting my wife. So yeah, that was, well, I met her before, but like that's when we really became friends.
So then, Elton, I think that my second question, well, the third question, you've already answered it, is was the length of time that it took you to become a CASA worth it? And I mean, if you met your wife, you met the love of your life, the mother of your children, then definitely it was worth it. But can you also just shed a bit more light on that in terms of the achievements that you've been able to obtain through being a CA, or maybe the challenges that you were able to overcome because you were a CA, or because you strived harder to attain your goal?
Yeah. I think I maybe just want to like reflect on a few things. I think, you know, I mentioned earlier that especially when it comes to education, it's about community. But maybe I should go one step back. And I realized for me that it's about grace, because being able to study, you can say it's an argument whether it's a right or a privilege. I think that when we compare ourselves to the average South African. Having been able to study is a privilege because a lot of people don't get that opportunity. So I've been graced to have the privilege to study. I've also been graced to have the parents that said, you're going to study. And they also said, or you're going to serve God, like for the English people. So like, and so that, I think as I've matured, I realized that everything that has been given to me is grace, because a lot of other people don't have it. And so it's for me, as I journeyed through, and I'm still journeying through life, it's this tension between grace and I have to work hard at it. So grace is the fact that I actually don't deserve this, because if I did deserve it, then how do I explain to someone else who doesn't have it? And through no fault of their own. So it's that tension between, this is grace, like it's really a privilege that I don't deserve because someone else, different circumstances, they don't have the opportunities I've had. So I have to make use of this grace that I've been given. And so that for me was, especially those moments when I failed, was like, you know, you had this bursary at Stellenbosch, you just lost it. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, other people don't have the opportunity. So that was a shakeup. And when I felt PGDA, it was like, you've tried hard, but like, it's still grace. Yes, you've tried hard, but like, don't give up, because like other people don't even have a chance to have a second chance. So it's been this tension as I've journeyed through my career that I have, by the grace of God, been able to do do great things, and I've worked hard at it. But I also realize that it's also through how can I say, not really so much through work of my own, because it's been grace. So to give you an example, and I'm sorry I'm beating around the bush, but give you an example, like when I was in matric, I wasn't doing so well in math. So my dad got me a teacher to what you call it, a tutor, yeah, that thing. So he got me a tutor, and that was for, and I mean, she was an amazing tutor, because she didn't, you might know it, Pastor Andrea. Oh, she was at the Lighthouse. So she spoke into my life, and she taught me maths. So that was grace, because I mean, I didn't do anything to deserve that. And then, then I passed maths with flying colors. When I was struggling in PGDA with auditing, I got a friend who qualified a few years earlier, who helped me with auditing. Again, that was just grace that he was in my life. And yeah, when I got to UWC, there was Prof. Carol Kearney. I mean, I'm a math lecturer today. Like, I was not great at math at varsity at all. I scraped like 50% was my friend in math at university. Prof. Bacchus would tell me it was 48%, but like, I scraped, right? But when I joined UWC as a lecturer, I joined, and Prof. Carol Kearney came from UCT, and she mentored me. Like, it could have been so different. Like, someone else could have mentored me. And so now I'm seen, and a lot of people see me as a great math lecturer. And if they do see me that way, it's because of Carol, and it's only because of the grace of God. And even now, like, eventually finishing my PhD, Judith, Judith Blanche, I mean, she had a big impact. I could just bounce things off her, and like, if it was not for her, I don't know if I would have finished. So like, right through my career, there's always been someone that God has placed, or which through no doing of my own, that was there. And so I recognize that apart from grace, I'm just like nothing, and I'm grateful for that. And I just, because I realize there's grace on my life, I work hard at it. Yeah, so it's always a tension of grace and hard work.
That is so awesome. I definitely relate to that. There's a lot of times when you're struggling, or you're not sure how you're going to achieve something, you're not sure how you're going to overcome something, you see God's hand on your life. You're seeing a situation, something that was first like a mountain, become a molehill before you. And it is just God's grace. But like you said, it's coupled with hard work. God can't use you if you're just standing there and asking him to move you along the way. You also
Yeah.
need to actually walk and try and seek out people in your life, make contacts with people, be friendly, be loving, be kind to other people, and they will show kindness and love back to you, right? Because
Yeah.
you shine a light
Agreed.
and they attracted to that light.
Yeah.
So that
Agreed.
is
Yeah.
awesome testimony out here on Chatz with Charnie. Elton, you've mentioned so many people being in your life, so many people mentoring you, providing you with guidance, providing you with advice, and solidifying certain desires that you had within you in terms of pursuing this career. Was there a particular message that you heard or a turning point when you just told yourself, I am going to get this, come what may, it doesn't matter how long it takes me, I am determined to get my CASA or to achieve this goal that I have now set myself on?
Yeah, no, I mean, there was many turning points. Um, I think for me was I grew up in a family that that wants to make an impact in the world. And starting with your community. And the tension I had was, how is the CASA thing going to help me to make an impact? Because like the one side of the CA thing is that a lot of us study because we know we're going to make money. And when I became a Christian, when I became saved at the end of, well, as I was failing at Stellenbosch, so when was that? 2003. I had to kind of talk to myself and say like, well, am I still going to pursue the CA thing? Because like, isn't this just like a money making thing? Isn't it like a selfish kind of ambition? And what was the turning point was a message that I heard once that asked, now, what's in your hand and are you willing to use that for God? And I'm like, okay, well, um, I think that the CASA thing, well, it's not in my hand yet, but the pursuit of it and eventually getting it, well, I think that God can use it to make an impact. So I think that for me was a turning point. And so for me, the reason why I kept pursuing was, one, I knew that it would provide stability, and it does. Like, let no one tell you anything else, it does provide stability. But I also knew that it's something that God can use to impact others, and that has really been my motivation, is that I want to be the best CA that I can be, not for accolades or anything, but because I want to make an impact, for aspiring CAs or just people that hear that you are a CA and like, how did you do it? Like, you don't have to be a CA, but I want to tell you about, my story, and hope you find it inspirational for whatever space you are in. Um, and so, yeah, I've really been privileged to see how God has allowed me to do that over the last, how many years now? 12 years. Yeah.
And impactful you have been,
Yeah.
like I mentioned in your introduction. We were failing before you came. Failing back. It's like
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on in the class. And because of you and because of Prof. Kearney, I was able to be quite successful in management accounting towards the end of
You
my
were.
degree. And I was able to tutor it when I was a academic trainee, when you are technically my first official boss that I ever had. So you definitely have made an impact, not just on my life or my year group's life, but so many other students that have come after us, and not just all of us. But this big achievement that you had not too long ago with being a finalist in the top 35 under 35 for Psycher. I mean, that's a huge achievement. I'm
Only
sure
because you never applied. It's only because you never applied.
now, sorry, I just became a CA that year, man. I just
Okay, yeah.
became So just tell us, like, what was that like? I mean, it must have been an amazing experience. There was definitely a spotlight on you. I can remember the banners on LinkedIn. I remember
Yeah,
everyone sharing it. It was
yeah.
definitely a time that I was definitely proud of you. So just share some light on that experience and time.
It was a great experience. So I mean, for those who don't know, it's Psycho runs a top 35 under 35 competition, and so I was a finalist in the 2017 year. But the year before, I saw, because I mean, I never thought I mean, because I'm a lecturer, so I never thought that, you know, psycho is going to spotlight lecturers. I mean, when you think CA, you don't think lecturer. The year before, I saw some lecturers that were CAs also in the top 35 competition. I was like, okay, well, let me just take a try and let me apply. So I applied in 2017. And I think the what got me in, well, God's grace. But I asked Prof. Carol Kearney to write me a motivation. And I mean, I wish I had a motivation written here in front of me. Like what she wrote there was like, sure. I think that swinged that swing them just to that swing them just to choose me. And so yeah, so I got in, and it was, you know, they say everyone gets their 15 minutes of fame. I think that was a year of fame for me in that respect. Yeah, I didn't expect it to go so crazy. Like it did go crazy. And yeah, funnily enough, it was awesome. It was really awesome. But at the same time, in the background, what many people don't know, it was also not an easy time for me, for my wife and I personally, because I mean, the year before we lost our first baby through stillbirth. So it was not a, yeah. So on the one hand, career was blowing up, but on the other hand, you were, and so it was great. And I think it's one of the ways that, again, God's grace, where like, okay, you are going through this terrible time, but maybe something else might help to soothe somehow. I don't know if that was the soothing thing. But yeah, I just thought I'd give that context so well, because sometimes you can see people is doing great and looks like they, but actually in the background, they have a lot of other stuff going on. So that was going on in the background, but the competition itself was awesome. Psyche really, like, they put us on the map. Like it was like gala dinners, you in the magazine, and like YouTube videos of you, and the actual event where they announced the winner was an amazing event. And really, if you're under 35 and you're a CA, I would say that apply, like, for your CV, but also for the experience. I'm never going to take it off LinkedIn, so it's going to stay that I was in 2017. But yeah, it's a really great experience, and then you realize also, what I wanted to say about the competition is that, so I was there, and we had an event where all 35 of us got together, and my first reaction, because now you introduce yourself, like, hi, I'm Elton, I'm a lecturer at UWC and I teach math. And then you meet this other guy, and they're like, hi, I'm an FD of this company. I'm like, pleased to meet you. And then you're like, just like, yeah, you go outside and you're like, God, what am I doing here? These people are, yeah. And then you realize that the qualification is so diverse, that you can really do anything. And besides the fact that the qualification is diverse, the people that you meet being a CA, it's like you got to recognize that it opens networks. Like I mean, whether you're going to use those networks or not, it's just amazing. Like, so the network that has been created out of me being the top 35 under 35, like, I still have networks with those people. I don't, yeah. And I mean, even though they FDs and doing all these things, like, I can now call them at least some sort of friends. And so I think for that reason as well, it was a great experience. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I want to say about that.
That's awesome. I mean, being in the top 35, under 35 already, like, sets you apart. And like you said, it will forever be on your resume. It will forever be on LinkedIn. So those of you that are under 35 years old, apply, like Elton said. And then, Elton, I just want to express my sincere condolences for the loss of your first child. I was definitely praying for you during that time, and I know that it must have been really tough for you and your wife, and it's just God's grace that has brought you through it. And I know that you've been blessed with two lovely little boys that has just filled your life with so much joy, just like blessings upon blessings upon blessings.
Thank you.
Elton, just to close off, do you have any advice for the young CAs sitting in class or sitting in articles, struggling, not sure if this is for them any longer, not sure if auditing is for them any longer? What advice would you give them to push through and to continue till the very end?
Awesome. Shoo. I think if I could summarize in terms of advice, I think you have to ask yourself the question of why are you doing it? And so I think no matter what one takes on, if you have a strong why, then it helps you in the moments when you're feeling weak and you're feeling down and out. So have a strong why. And you know what? Yes, the qualification may bring a lot of money, but money is not a strong why. You have to have a stronger why than just money. And each person that's on this journey still wanting to be a CA. If you really do some soul searching and reflection, I think you will all be able to find a why. Um, and so I think that would be a first step, is like make sure of your why, make sure that it's a strong why. Um, and then the next step would be like, once your why is strong, then make sure that your what and your how, like how you're going to go about, is like that you have the tools and methodologies to do that. So for me, I think I've always had a strong why, but sometimes like the how and the how I went about it was not necessarily the best thing. So and sometimes we just, like, your lecturers or other people say like, this is how you should study, and you're like, you don't listen to them, like, but like what they are saying is actually the what and the how of what you should do to be successful. You know why you're doing it, like no one can tell you why you're doing it, but there are people that can give you like best practice of the what and the how to do it. So really pay attention to that. So for example, we say this over and over, especially for someone who's doing PGA at the moment, or you're preparing for ITC. Like, you got to do, I'm going to sound like your lecturer again now, but you got to do your questions blind without looking at the solution. Like, you can't like do the OES method. Like, I mean, I don't know how many times I have to say that, but in terms of like just the nitty gritty, like best advice to actually pass, a year, like that would be my best advice. Like, when you're studying, you need to know obviously the content, but when you're studying, like, it comes down to passing an assessment. At the end of the day, the psycho qualification is very assessment driven. We'll have another chat on another day whether that's the best educationally, but like, if you can't pass an assessment, you're not going to pass. You're not going to be a CA. That's the fact. So what's the best way to pass an assessment is to practice it under exam conditions, and you got to do it blind. So in summary, a strong why, and then the best advice I can give you now in terms of like what and how to go about it is, when you're studying for an assessment, whether it's a test exam or the PGA, final PGA exam, or the ITC, got to do questions blind under exam conditions. And you can't do the OES method. You got to everyone knows the OES method. You got to compare your truth to the truth of the solution. And you got to reconcile your truth to the solution. And it's in that reconciliation that learning actually really happens. Because at the end of the day, you want to come back out of this qualification as having really learned. Yes, you've passed, but like, have you really learned? And I think it's when you're comparing what you've done, this is my honest attempt, to the solution, and like, how do I reconcile that? That's the journey of learning, at least in this assessment driven CA qualification.
Spoken like a true lecturer, giving that advice about doing your tutorials blind and not the OES method. I definitely remember you saying that when I was studying as well, and it helped a lot. Doing especially all the Mac tutorials we would get. Like, sometimes you guys would give us like 20 or something, on relevant costing, on standard costing. And I mean, I used to do like the same one how many times, just to like learn what are the nuances, like how do you do this, and it pays off, and especially go for consultation to your lecturers. It's super important.
And I mean, one other thing I want to say, especially for those who are in PGDA, is like, you gotta take the pressure of perfection. Like, we're not expecting perfection. I'm not perfect. You can give me a Mac question today, I'm not going to get 100% for it. So take the pressure of perfection and focus on competence. So when you are doing that question blind, looking at the solution, like don't focus on that difficult part like that you didn't get and let that throw off your whole learning. Like that was aimed for the person who was in at perfection. Focus on the basic principles and making sure that you are competent in the basic principles than rather letting the perfect 100% correct answer throw you off. Because you don't need to, that's why it's called initial test of competence, assessment of professional competence. It's not called the initial test of perfection, or we're not, the CA qualification is not about being perfect. It's about competence. And if you don't know what we mean by competence, then ask what we mean by competence.
I agree. That is great advice, Elton. Thank you so much for being on Chat with Charnie. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your life lessons, where your failures as well. It's not that easy for us always to admit and confess our failures to people. So thank you so much for that. I'm sure that many people will learn from your experiences, will learn from the life lessons that you shared with us today. And I think it's been a really great session, and I'm looking forward, for people being blessed by your message.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you everyone for watching Chatz with Charnie and coming back to the channel. Please look forward to more videos. Bye.
Bye.